This is the Nashvillager podcast. It's June 30th, 2026. On this day in 1937, the world's first emergency phone hotline went into operation in London. Public service notices were placed in the newspapers explaining how to use it. One said, quote, "Only dial 999 if the matter is urgent. If, for instance, the man in the flat next to yours is murdering his wife, or if you have seen a heavily masked cat burglar peering around the stack pipe of the local bank building." A week later, the 999 line received its first call, an attempted break-in. The would-be thief was arrested within 5 minutes. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with context and backstory from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. The movement to establish a similar emergency hotline phone number in the United States didn't really emerge until 1957, a full 20 years after the London line got started. And to actually make it a reality in this country took even longer. The National Association of Fire Chiefs advocated for about a decade before a federal commission finally agreed that it would be a good idea. The number 911 was chosen a year later in 1968, and the first demonstration call was made to an emergency call center in Alabama later that year. But the choice of implementing the 911 system was left up to states, and over the years, choosing to upgrade or enhance it has remained a state decision. The Tennessee General Assembly didn't pass a 911 law until 1984. That established use of the emergency number in the state, created a framework for how local governments could set up emergency communications, and set the regulations for how they should work. And in 1987, Knox County was the first to set up a dispatch center with a consolidated radio system that let the phone center communicate with all of the local first responder agencies. 1987, a full half century after London's line went live. But we caught up. In the 90s, as the nation's emergency officials figured out ways to advance their technology to better work with wireless communications, Tennessee became an early adopter of the new tech. I mean, of course, it was a little easier to just get the newest gear in counties that were starting from scratch than it may have been in other places where administrators would have had to make the case for upgrading older equipment that still worked as well as it always had. But one way or another, we became the first state where operators could see the location of someone making a cell phone call to 911, and one of the first states to authorize text to 911, although it did take nearly 15 years for every county to implement that system. Just a few years ago, we were the first state to implement a full wireless backup for our call centers, meaning they should be able to stay in operation when a disaster affects the normal infrastructure. Of course, we are also a place with a big example of why backups are necessary and why those backups can't just be a second set of switches in the same building as the primary system. When an Antioch man turned his RV into a bomb and detonated it in downtown Nashville on Christmas morning 2020, his main target was the AT&T building where calls were routed. Dozens of emergency call centers went offline as a result. Now, there were backups in place at that point, just not the kind that could make a difference in that scenario. The redundant systems in place at that point were designed with thoughts of how to handle a problem where the tech broke, not a situation where the entire facility suffered damage. And honestly, no matter what, the tech is only ever half the story. An emergency call center can have the most advanced equipment, but if it isn't fully staffed, if there are problems with how it's run, I bring that up because those are the allegations that started swirling around Metro Nashville's 911 center a little while ago. Things really came to a head in January of this year when an investigation outlined systemic problems in the Department of Emergency Communications. Its director was fired the following month. Since then, there have been signs that a steady reworking of things is happening, with periodic announcements that longtime employees have been promoted into various leadership positions. The top position has not been permanently filled yet. For the moment, interim Patrice Coleman is charged with holding down the fort. In just a few minutes, how Tennessee's hemp industry is feeling the impact of recent changes to state law. That's coming up after the newscast.
This month, HealthQ is digging into what it's like to be in the sandwich generation, raising a kid and seeing your parents age.
When I had a preschooler and a toddler, I got a call from my previously very independent mom that she was in the hospital.
I have kind of prided myself on being self-sufficient. And in this season of life, that's almost been laughable.
Tune in Tuesday mornings. For more, check out WPLN.org/HealthQ, a collaboration with KFF Health News.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Warnings about the dangers of heat are escalating in Middle Tennessee and now include a message directed at employers. As heat index values near 110 degrees, Nashville's emergency responders are cautioning about physical outdoor work. Among the recommendations are to take frequent rest breaks, shift the timing of tasks to cooler periods, train workers to recognize heat exhaustion and heat stroke, and establish a buddy system among workers. Metro's heat patrols are canvassing homeless encampments this week, and many communities have opened cooling centers. Heat waves are becoming longer and more intense in the U.S. because of climate change. The average number of heat waves has doubled since the 1980s. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell wants to halt a data center planned near the Nashville Zoo. The community has expressed concerns for the project, ranging from a lack of transparency to noise pollution that could affect zoo animals. WPLN's Caroline Eggers reports the mayor filed legislation yesterday to seek eminent domain of the property, where the company DC Blocks plans to construct a facility.
The data center plan near the Nashville Zoo has spurred enormous pushback. More than 500,000 people signed a petition supporting the zoo, and many people voiced opposition to the project during a recent public hearing. Here's local Hanny Latif.
I go to the zoo on my birthday as a grown man every year, and I love these animals dearly.
DC Blocks is behind the project. Marketing Vice President Bill Thompson says there's been a lot of misinformation about it. He says this data center won't support AI and instead will serve as a connectivity hub between consumers and larger data centers.
So this is a connectivity hub that helps bridge between the consumers and the larger data centers around the region that might serve their need.
DC Blocks was supposed to purchase the land for the project in July for $23 million. But the latest move by O'Connell could stop it in its tracks. If his eminent domain legislation is enacted, the city will have dibs on buying the property. Caroline Eggers, WPLN News.
Well, hundreds turned out yesterday evening to voice their concerns about a planned data center at Fisk University. They want to know what type of environmental impact the facility will have to the North Nashville community. Fisk University President Dr. Eugenia Clark told the packed crowd at Lee Chapel AME Church that not all data centers are created equal. She distinguished what's planned for Fisk from the facility near the Nashville Zoo.
I will tell you that it was the advent of the zoo project that seemed to have triggered an interest in what Fisk was doing, and Fisk had announced what they were doing transparently to everyone 6 weeks ahead of all of a sudden. But this is what is already happening.
Clark says data centers are all over Nashville and that Fisk is modeled after those that are environmentally safe. But she's still not sure what kind of facility it will be or who will fund it. Senator Charlene Oliver is against the proposed data center because she doesn't know enough about it and is unsure if it will harm her constituents. Some members of the crowd took issue with not being allowed to directly ask questions. Rather, they were directed to write their questions on a card so the moderator could then read them aloud. A public hearing about data centers is set to take place on July 7th, and the city is considering a moratorium on data center construction, as well as new regulations. A Tennessee state senator will take part in a federal meeting about controversial peptide drugs. The unproven chemicals are part of a wellness trend among athletes and influencers and have been praised by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But peptides have drawn warnings from the FDA, which has found them risky. Research has not found evidence that they can build muscle, heal, or help people look younger. Unlike past considerations, the upcoming meeting will feature peptide proponents. Those include East Tennessee Senator and pharmacist Bobby Harshbarger. His mother is a member of Congress who has also called for fewer FDA restrictions. Former Tennessee Titans star running back Chris Johnson, who holds the NFL record for combined running and receiving yards in a single season, has disclosed a terminal diagnosis. He shared on Good Morning America that at age 40, he's been living with ALS for the last year.
I want people to understand just how quickly ALS can attack your body. Just over a year ago, I was picking up my 7-year-old daughter so she make a wish with her birthday cake. Today, I couldn't do that.
Johnson is now unable to pick up a cup to take a drink and has lost much of his ability to speak. In the ABC interview, he used his eyes to control a computer that relies on voice recordings he made before the disease progressed. Medical science has not pinpointed a cause for ALS, but a study published in 2021 by Boston University's CTE Center found that NFL players are 4 times more likely to develop the degenerative disease. Chris Johnson's former Titan teammate Tim Shaw was diagnosed in 2014. He now relies on a power chair to get around, but has far outlived the ALS diagnosis, which carries a life expectancy of just a few years. Well, Nashville's World Cup rooting interest in Team Japan came to an abrupt end after the match against Brazil yesterday afternoon in Houston. Japan's national team, affectionately called Samurai Blue, was based in Nashville for training leading up to the Cup. The team had an early lead against Brazil, but gave up the decisive goal in the final minutes. At a watch party at Plaza Mariachi in South Nashville, the few Japanese fans were far outnumbered by those supporting Brazil. That included Sue Ellen Miele. Even before the game ended, she was confident Brazil would come out on top.
And they kept all the possess of the ball, and they did a great game, yeah. And I think it was perfect. They stayed the whole time looking for the best way to get it to the goal, even though Japan was really defensive.
The two nations share strong ties, with Brazil being home to about 2.7 million Japanese descendants, the largest population outside of Japan. Nashville fans were last able to greet the Japanese players on Saturday before the team bus was escorted to the game.
You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org.
Starting tomorrow, some of the hemp industry's most popular products will be taken off the shelves in Tennessee. Last year, the legislature banned the sale and cultivation of THCA, a type of THC that was legalized nationwide in 2018. WPLN's Mariana Bacchiao reports on how Tennessee businesses are pivoting.
On his farm in Reedyville, Tennessee, Crabtree has returned to growing some seasonal favorites like blackberries. He picks a big one off the vine.
Was it a good one?
Oh, that's good.
Was it tart?
A little tart on the back end.
It's hard to tell when they're exactly ripe. Usually when the flies are eating it, you know it's sweet.
Much of Crabtree's farm had been devoted to a CBD variety of hemp, but a new state law has made selling his products illegal. So where there once were rows of hemp, Crabtree has planted a variety of sweet corn.
And even right off the plant, it's just so sweet. It's great. I'm hoping that it sells good.
Inside, Crabtree still has an industrial kitchen from when he made his own CBD goodies. Now, his wife Stacy is using the industrial kitchen to chop grapes for her chicken salad. She prefers it to cooking in her home kitchen.
I like it better. I have way more room. And I'm forced to clean up after myself immediately.
In the months leading up to the THC ban, she started selling her chicken salad and pimento cheese sandwiches at a farmer's market up the road.
Because food is a love language. I love to cook. Getting to share it with everybody else makes it a little extra special.
This new chapter of their business is all about trying new things. Like many former hemp farmers, Crabtree has had to pivot.
I'm not making the money that I would have been making, back when CBD was huge there for a minute. It was really good there for a moment. It had its time in the sun.
If these crops don't sell, he says he'll be looking for a job. That's also the reality for employees of larger hemp companies that are having to lay off staff, like Gold Spectrum in East Tennessee. Other companies are moving across state lines to North Carolina.
The state is a lot more hemp friendly out here, so we are seeing what kind of roots we can plant here.
That's Emily Shafrick. Her company, Burning Acres, moved from Columbia, Tennessee to North Carolina to continue growing.
To uproot your entire, retail and manufacturing and wholesale supply chain to another state is definitely racks up a little bit of a bill.
But Shafrick says she's been lucky in navigating this change. Many smaller businesses have closed.
So a state that is definitely known for helping the small business person, this one did hit. It was a gut punch, I must be honest and say that.
That's Frederick Cawthon, president of the Hemp Alliance of Tennessee. He says on top of the THCA ban, growers and sellers are facing steep taxes.
Small businesses like ours cannot really survive in a market and don't have the capital to support those requirements.
The Whitney Economics Report valued Tennessee's hemp market at $1.7 billion. That value will take a nosedive, Cawthon says, and the state won't be getting as much tax revenue from hemp as it has in the past. Some farmers are getting back to their roots, growing a fiber variety of hemp that's used to make everything from rope to packaging to car parts like seat backs. In Springfield, Tennessee, farmer Bill Corbin is preparing his first crop of hemp for the French company Hempit.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to get your footing in here from the cultivation.
As we walk through the rows of hemp, the height of the plant changes as the soil type changes. Corbin was one of the first farmers to start growing hemp under Tennessee's 2016 initiative, a full 2 years before the federal farm bill made it possible nationwide.
There's not a person in this industry that didn't know this day was coming.
Corbin says the industry was unsustainable, and he agrees with lawmakers' efforts to tamp down on people using hemp derivatives recreationally. But he's worried about consumers who use it medicinally.
Take me, for example. Obviously, I'm an older person. I have issues with arthritis. I rely heavily on full-spectrum CBD tinctures, oil.
Full spectrum meaning it has THC. What will soon be legally available doesn't work for him. And medicinal THC is a big part of the market, Cawthon says.
You know, a lot of people think it's the young generation. No, when you look at the numbers and if you talk to the operators, the data shows it's your grandmother, it's your auntie, it's the church lady, actually.
Cawthon says the products left after the ban might not be enough for them. Mariana Bacallao, WPLN News.
We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday, so subscribe in your favorite podcasting app to make sure you never miss an episode. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy the Nashvillager newsletter too. You'll get perspective from more of my colleagues at Nashville Public Radio and links to the stories we're following. Sign up for those daily emails at WPLN.org/Nashvillager. And thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.